I attend high school at a religious college, preparatory school. That's pretty bad because I'm actually a closeted trans person, and those schools pound ideas like homosexuality and transgenderism are sinful in nature. But I'm getting off topic. My school has this nice wooded area surrounding it, and if you follow either way, in or out of the school, you'll end up in a little shopping area in front of the school. I like to take long walks through the woods to help clear my mind or just to be alone for a bit. However, I'm not sure if I can ever step foot in those woods without thinking about what happened last night. There was a home football game this evening, and my brother wanted to go. And naturally, my parents forced me to. Law of twins. The worst law. I only stayed for about 2 quarters before walking around and forcing myself to socialize a little bit. Even though I didn't like most of them, it was better than football. During the 4th quarter or something like that, I asked my brother if I could go back to my car, which was parked in the shopping area across the way, so I can start it up and be ready by the time he walks over. He gives me the keys to our shared car and I make my way to it. While walking through the parking lot, I decide to take a quicker shortcut through the woods, and that's when the craziness starts. I swear I could hear someone walking behind me, but every time I turned around, I was met with an empty trail. I found this odd, but I dismissed it as paranoia. I kept walking, but I began to feed to this paranoia, and eventually, I was able to convince myself to speed up to a brisk pace so I can avoid getting snatched up by this invisible threat that was pursuing me. As I sped up, I realized the footsteps I kept hearing wasn't my mind fucking with me, but actual reality. I looked behind me to see a guy in a black hoodie sprinting after me. Panicked, I began to pick up my pace. I could see the edge of the woods and the lights of the shopping center, before 2 other hooded guys jumped out in front of me, forcing me to take a left and into uncharted territory. I could hear all 3 of them screaming obscenities at me. I didn't even know who these guys were, and their voices were filled with the strongest of spite and the darkest of intent. It was horrifying, and I wouldn't wish this experience upon anybody. Eventually, I found myself in a neighborhood at the northern end of the woods, and I turned around to see nothing chasing me. I stopped to catch my breath, and I cried. I couldn't help myself. The words they said were too violent, even if they were teens or adults. I didn't know if they were empty or a promise to something I could see in the future. Eventually, I calmed myself down and walked myself back to the stores across the street, found my car, and locked the doors the second I got inside. I didn't even use my phone. I just scanned the area around me, making sure these creeps didn't follow me. So, hooded forest freaks? Let's not meet. This happened about 6 months ago. I was at a party my friend was having at her place on a Friday night when I ended up leaving early since I had gotten into a huge fight with her that resulted in me getting kicked out of the party. It was around midnight when I left, and my apartment was around a 20-minute walk from her house. I turned left onto a major road that led to the road that my apartment was located on. About 10 minutes into my walk, a guy on a bicycle pulled up next to me and got my attention. He asked, "Hey man, do you have any change for the bus on you? I need to get home, man. It's pretty far away." I apologized and truthfully told him I didn't have any change on me, and I walked away. He pulled up on me again and asked, "Well, do you have any singles? Could you give them to me and I'll swing by the store and get quarters?" I apologized once again and told him that I didn't have any singles on me. I had a 20 on me, but I didn't tell him that as he was starting to sketch me out a bit. I started to walk away when, once again, he pulled up in front of me and pulled out some shitty prepaid cell phone and said, "I'll sell this to you for $4. It's a good deal." I'm thinking to myself at this point, is this guy serious? Does he actually think I'm going to buy that from him? I already told him I didn't have any money on me. I told him once again I didn't have any money on me, and I quickly walked away. As I'm walking away, I see him swing a U-turn onto the other side of the road to talk to another pedestrian, presumably asking him the same questions he asked me. I quicken my pace at that point and try to get as far away from this guy as I can. Shortly before reaching my block, I glanced behind me and I noticed the same guy slowly riding his bike less than a block behind me. I think to myself, not this shit again, and I quickly walk and turn right onto my block. As I'm walking, I look behind me once again to see the guy turn onto the block and start pedaling towards me, and I notice he begins pulling a knife out of his jacket pocket. This caused me to quickly take out my own pocket knife, and I made sure he saw me holding it. I screamed at him, "Get the fuck away from me right now." He got startled, put the knife back in his pocket, and pedaled away from me faster than I think I've ever seen. I stand there until he is well out of my view, and I quickly make my way into my apartment. I was extremely pissed off and nervous at the same time. I thought about what had just happened, and I think I figured out what he wanted. He must have been trying to come up with ways to get me to take my wallet out of my pocket. And he was either gonna quickly snatch it out of my hand and speed away, or he was gonna threaten me with a knife to hand it over. I'm just glad I caught him following me home and pulling his knife out, cause had I not noticed, this encounter would have had a different outcome. So, Sketchy Dude who was so adamant about stealing my wallet that you tried to sell me some shitty cell phone and even tried to hold me at knife point. Please, let's not meet again. Ever again. This happened some time ago, but nothing even close has happened since, and it took me a long time to realize the gravity of the situation. I lived in a share house with 3 other guys at the time. However, they were all at their various jobs and I worked night shifts at a nearby gas station. I was in bed after a shift, fast asleep, and I started awake, not really knowing why. There was a period of about 15 to 20 seconds after I began to wake up of silence, followed by a knock at the door. At this point, having just woken up, I was still trying to get my bearings. However, I realized that I must have woken up from someone knocking at the door. Another 15 to 20 seconds pass in silence, and I start to think, maybe it was just a door-to-door salesperson, and I figured they just must have left. So I started to relax a little at this point. Then, the entire front of the house starts to shake and I can hear what sounds like someone hitting the front wall with a sledgehammer. At this point, I can't really process what is going on. My first thoughts are, since we lived across from the train station, this must be because of the activity of the station, like maybe a freight train rumbling past. I don't know why I thought that, but in my mind, it was the most logical thing. All of a sudden, the banging stopped momentarily. It resumes another 5 seconds later, but this, not less than 2 minutes had passed since I woke up. However, it felt like my brain had only just started working. I realized now that, at the very least, something was happening to the front of my house that I didn't like. The bangs were loud and the house was pretty old and warped, almost entirely made out of wood. At this point, I started to panic because I could just feel the shaking frame starting to give under the blows. So I did the only thing that I could think of, and I started yelling unsteadily at the front of my house. From memory, I think I frantically yelled something like, "What the fuck are you doing?" It was a fight or flight response. I didn't even have time to think to formulate a plan, or just go out the back door, or call the police. Almost as suddenly as it started, the banging stopped and I heard some footsteps outside running away. For some reason, this gave me the confidence and I looked around for a weapon to grab before I went outside to confront whoever it was. I remember thinking the handle felt a little weird when I opened the front door. However, by the time I got outside, they were gone and nowhere to be seen, almost as if they'd never been there at all. I should mention at this point, I was getting about 2 hours of sleep a day before my night shifts, so I was a little sleep deprived and I knew I wasn't thinking clearly. So I started to question whether anything happened at all. When I went outside, I looked for any signs of damage to verify for sure whether this had really happened or not. Then I saw the front door and I realized why the handle had felt odd. The flimsy wooden door had been stuck next to the handle repeatedly and started to splinter. If they had kicked the center of the door, I'm sure their foot would have gone right through, but they were kicking next to the handle, closer to the frame where it was slightly stronger. 1 or 2 more kicks and they would have been inside. The police came later and I filed a report. However, nothing was stolen and there was nothing stolen from the unlocked garage beneath the bedrooms. They were either too stupid to check the downstairs first or they weren't really looking to steal anything. It was the mid-90s in a rural community just east of the Mississippi. Just another one of those insular towns that litter the Bible Belt. Doors stayed unlocked, keys left at ignitions, everybody knows each other, etc., etc. Normally, my mom would cart me off to church with the rest of the family on Sundays, but she was having issues that were later found to be the first signs of ovarian cancer. I wanted to stay home with my mom and watch movies on the couch with her rather than go to church, so my stepfather left us home alone for the day. Mom eventually relocated from the couch to her bedroom and I was finally resting when the doorbell rang. I sat in my bedroom playing with my Briar horse figurines, assuming Mom would answer the door or they'd just go away. The doorbell rang again, sounding off twice this time. I walked to the doorframe of my mom's bedroom and peered in. She was dead to the world. The doorbell rang again, sounding off several times like whoever was out there was mashing the button, so I went in and answered the door. There was a vaguely familiar man standing on the front step. He had dark hair, dark eyes, and a patchy light beard. He bent down a little and asked, "Why did you answer the door?" Fearful of getting in trouble like the one time I didn't look both ways before crossing the street and was almost hit in the grocery parking lot, I answered, just to help my mom this one time." The man straightened back up and put his left hand in the pouch of his hoodie. He smiled. "Is your mom home? Can I come in?" "She is home, but you can't come in." The man seemed okay, but I was still worried about getting in trouble with my mom. That time, I ran out in front of the car at the grocery was the one time she'd ever been so angry that she screamed at me. It was a big deal that I didn't break any of the rules. The man looked back at his truck parked out in front real quick before shifting his weight to the other foot. I realized I didn't know why he was here. My only thought was that I was going to get in trouble for being rude. He asked, "Why not? This house is too big for your mom to know I'm right here." I felt uncomfortable in a way I had never felt before. It felt like I just needed to go or leave or something. I said the first thing that came to my mind. "This house isn't big." I slammed the door on him and ran to wake my mom up. I still don't know what came over me in that moment, but I'm sure glad it did. By the time the sheriff arrived, the man was long gone and no one else reported anything involving any brunette man or a white truck. No one saw, or I guess, noticed him again. Creepy doorbell ringer, let's not meet again.